Hey there, fantasy owners. Welcome to Lift the Cup Fantasy, or LTC Fantasy as some people call it. We're going to continue with our 21-22 team fantasy reviews. We're going to check out who led them in different stats for goaltenders, defensemen, and forwards. Who's their biggest fantasy surprise this season? Who's their biggest fantasy disappointment? And see if anybody was relevant fantasy-wise on a weekly basis. Also take a peek at some streamers that help some owners out through different points of the season here. These reviews continue to come out a few times a week because no better way to enjoy the finals now, the Stanley Cup finals, than watching the hockey and talking a little bit of fantasy hockey here. Don't forget to subscribe. That way you can catch your favorite team's review. Maybe you want to catch your rivals review. Maybe you want to catch all 32. Or maybe you just want to look at a few teams that sometimes get overlooked fantasy-wise. So we'll get right into it. Goalies. It was Philip Grubauer who led him in games played at 55. Also led him in wins at 18. Low there, but expansion team. The goals against average was Chris Driedger at 2.96, and Driedger also led him in save percentage at 899. Grubauer was a workhorse there, playing 55 games. Obviously a tough inaugural season for Seattle there, so the wins and the goals against and that wasn't where you'd expect it to be, but Seattle should improve through the draft. They do have cap room, etc., so as long as they improve, so should the goaltending numbers in Seattle. Are they going to be great? Probably not yet, but they should improve from what we got this year, that's for sure. On the back end, who led him in goals was Carson Soucy at 10. Vince Dunn led him in assists at 28 and points at 35. Carson Soucy led him in plus-minus, +7, so that's pretty nice considering he's on an expansion squad there. Adam Larson led him in hits at 183 and blocks at 140. Shots on goal was Vince Dunn at 121, so kind of low there, but that was after Giordano left, that's where Dunn's numbers really improved there because he was getting that first unit power play time. He was seen in all situations, and he really took off, like I mentioned, after Giordano left. Larson was good in non-offensive categories. He's really good in your blocks and hits. So there's a little bit of fantasy value there if you're in a Roto league or a Cats league for sure. Really on the back end, nobody's going to wow you, but there was some options streaming-wise, of course. On the front end, who led him in goals was Jared McCann at 27. Yanni Gordy led him in assists at 27 again. And points with Jared McCann at 50 points. Plus-minus was Riley Sheahan at +6. Brandon Tanev led him in hits at 98. Alex Wenberg led him in blocks at 44. And Jared McCann led him in shots on goal at 109. Now, with being an expansion franchise, they actually did okay. Again, just like the defenseman, nobody's going to wow you, but there was some options for streaming, that's for sure. And obviously, with the draft coming up, etc., they should get stronger through free agency, the draft, etc., and it should be better going forward there. Obviously, McCann, Gordy, and Everly did lead the forward group, but was it amazing? Not really, but they did have some options streaming-wise, like I said. Biggest fantasy disappointment from Seattle has to be Philip Grubauer. Now, you know his numbers were going to take a hit going from Colorado to Seattle, but he was Seattle's big off-season signing, signed him big money, big term. From the expansion draft, they did draft defensemen first, so you figured his numbers would be better than what they were. They just weren't, unfortunately. You knew the wins might not be there, but you expected better goals against and save percentage, and his goals against was 3.16, only an 889 save percentage, so you really were expecting those numbers to be better. Biggest fantasy surprise? Nobody really. No, looking at the roster, you didn't really expect much. If I had to pick somebody, I'd probably go with Jordan Eberle, because he did have 21 goals, and it's first time in 4 years that he had a 20-goal season. Not really great, but it's something that was a bit of a surprise there. Fantasy relevant on a weekly basis. as you can tell the way I'm trending with this, nobody was really fantasy relevant on a weekly basis. They did have some streamers there that you could use. Dunn was decent on the back end, especially after Giordano left. You could stream him on light nights. Up front, you had McCann, Gordy, Eberle, and Schwartz when he was healthy. Schwartz missed a lot of time this year. Hence, if he's healthy next year, even without improving through the draft and free agency, that's a good sign for Seattle. We will be out in a few days with another one here. If you did like it, please remember to hit like, hit subscribe, and remember that notification bell. And enjoy the rest of the finals here, fantasy owners.